Hey guys, welcome to EVO Studios. I'm Hans Shershaw. Today we're going to be going through the RAGE3 and the RAGE Gen 2, and I'm going to show you guys how to set them up, balance them, and run through the modes. It's pretty easy and basic, and I'm going to try to get through this as fast as I can. So here we go. First off, the RAGE3 comes with the follow focus. So this is included in the package. It might be in a separate box for the first few orders, but it does come with the package. So when you sell this, you get the follow focus drive, you have the follow focus controller on the handle of the gimbal. So I'm gonna open these up and we'll get going. As you can see, these come with a really nice set of EVA cases. When I travel, I just throw this whole thing in my suitcase, and I have gone all over the place, and I've been on the road for the last 2 weeks doing training, and this thing has held up. It looks brand new. So I'm gonna go ahead and open it up. So inside, you're gonna have your gimbal, you're gonna have your battery chargers and your battery. You get a little grip tape, and then all of your instructions will be in here. And then right underneath the gimbal here, there's a little case, and this has all of your cables in it. We'll go ahead and pull this out, get it set up. All right, so we got everything out of the box. I got my batteries, my tripod, my gimbal. I'm gonna go ahead and install my batteries first. The batteries go in negative side up. So you'll see a little negative sign on the top there. Make sure we got them in there the correct way. And I'm gonna go ahead and mount my battery tube back on, and then we'll put the tripod on. So the first thing I want to show you guys is these little screws that tighten up all of the points of your balance all over the gimbal. They're kind of ratcheted. So if you pull out on them and you turn them, they actually will not affect the threads. It just kind of gives you the opportunity, if you're tightening it up and it's hitting the bottom of the camera, you can just pull it out and turn it. That's very helpful, especially as you're moving things around. If you do want to get them out of the way, for instance, I could just pull that one out and move it forward if I wanted to. So that's true with all of these points of balance all the way across the gimbal. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to loosen up this release plate. And this is just a standard Bogan style release plate. On the front of this plate, you have this lens support. So this moves up and down to support the lens that you have on your camera. I do not use this 90% of the time because most of the cameras I'm using are lighter, and I'm not using a huge heavy lens that's going to be sticking out, so I don't really need to use that. So I'm just going to put that all the way down, and I'm going to go ahead and put my camera just like you would any kind of tripod mount. We'll stick that on there. And you'll figure this out as you go, but you are probably gonna have to move this back or forward to get the whole thing to balance correctly. I know with this lens setup, that's gonna be pretty close. So now you have a couple of arrows, one here and one here on the bottom of the gimbal. So when we are putting this together, we wanna make sure those arrows are pointing in the same direction. Now you can see right off the bat that my camera is a little heavy on this backside and it's wanting to slide backwards. I can push the camera forward just a tiny little bit. I haven't tightened it up all the way. I just kind of snugged it up on that bottom screw. So now it seems to be wanting to go forward just a little bit. So I'm going to push it back on that slide until I can almost let go of it, and it's just going to stay right there. So we'll tighten that up. Now we know that the forward and backward part is pretty close on the balance. Now you'll see as I let go of this side, it wants to fall this way. What we want to do is take this slider on the back motor, loosen this up, and push this over until it does the same thing. We want to make sure that it stops trying to fall one way or the other until you can let go of it. And then we want it to be about in the middle. And it's going to be these little tiny micro moves to get that. You can see how little I've moved it. And inside here, you actually have little indication marks. So you can look at those and say, okay, I want to move it one mark over this way. It comes very natural. As you get through this, you're going to see that it's really a lot easier than you think. People get very scared of balancing these things, and it's such an easy thing to do. It just takes a little bit of time. It takes about 6 or 7 times doing it, and then it just comes second nature. You just get it. So instead of encouraging people to mark these and show them, you know, where they had it the last time, just show them how to do it. Teach them that it's okay to do this, and I think that they're going to have a better experience all the way around. If they want to change their lens, it's not the end of the world. In a perfect world, we would be able to let go of it here and it would stay, let go of it here and it would stay. We would be able to turn it this way, let go, and it would stay, turn it this way and let go, it would stay. The way that I was able to do that is basically all of the center of gravity for this thing sits in this point. This is the most important point. If you're too low and you let go of it, it's going to swing. So if I let go of it, it's going to swing down. So if you're, let's exaggerate that a lot. I'm going to lower it way too much. I hold it up, see how it's swinging back and forth. If I hold it down, it's swinging back and forth. So what we want to do is raise the center of gravity up because it's swinging this way. If we had it the other way too far, as I would hold it forward, it would want to flop down or flop backwards. So what I want to do is I want to move this up and down until I get it to the point, just like with all the rest of these, it's just like a scale, just till we can get it to stay and stay and stay and stay. So right now it's still wanting to come up just a tiny little bit. So I'm going to look at these indication marks and I'm just going to move it up one tiny little mark. Now when I leave it there, it stays now, stays. So these are just micro moves. They're so small and it goes a long way. So now we've got this point and this point and this point. All 3 of these are done. So lastly, we're going to do this one. So this is a little bit trickier, and it is, you have to be kind of strong for this one. We're going to grab the gimbal and we're going to hold it just like a flashlight, just like this. I'm going to hold my camera just like it's holding straight forward, and I'm going to grab this top gimbal motor and move it over, and it should stay here when I let go. But you can see it swinging up really hard. So that means that I'm too far forward this way. So I'm going to back this up. And again, this is trial and error until you get it just right. I'm going to hold that motor, go like this. Still too far forward. Move it back. Let's try it one more time. Oh, that one's staying there. That's really good. Let go of it here. That one's staying there. That's really good. This is perfectly balanced. This is totally acceptable. Now we're ready to go ahead and turn on the gimbal. There are a few little things that you are going to want to keep track of. Like this, we didn't tighten this one all the way down. So now I'm going to want to take a screwdriver or a coin or something and get in here and tighten this down. For today's purposes, we are not going to worry about that. When you do move one thing on the axes, you're going to change other things. So you could see that as I moved my camera and tightened it up where I wanted it, now all of a sudden I'm falling this way a little bit and I'm falling forward a little bit. So I'm just going to compensate for that by moving my roll axis in the back. I'm going to make sure that this is still doing what it's supposed to do. It's falling forward a little bit, so I'm just going to push this back a little bit here. You can see I barely moved it, and it made a whole bunch of difference. Okay, we're really good here. I'm happy with that balance. That's really good. So we can go ahead and turn this on at this point, and the motors will fire up. So you can see that in this mode, it's going to default to what we call the pan follow mode. So as I'm panning, it's going to go ahead and pan, but it's going to also keep my camera nice and straight and level as I'm moving it this way. So I can be tipping this way, and it's going to keep the camera nice and flat. So in this mode, on my joystick, I'm able to point it down and up by using the joystick up and down. Left and right is not going to do anything because you're doing your pan with your left and your right. So you shouldn't have to use that left and right. And that's just in this mode. So you can see that it says PF on the monitor here. I think you guys can see that. As I change my modes, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to push it twice, and it should go into full follow mode. So there should be an F right there. So now you'll see as I'm tipping the camera, the handle, the camera's going to tip with it as well. So this is full follow, so it's following left and right, and it's panning as I move it up and down. And this is really nice if you're going downstairs or chasing a skier or something like that, because it's very intuitive, kind of just as if you were holding a camera and moving it like this. You're just moving that up and down with your wrist. We'll go back into the pan follow mode. So it should say PF. And then we're going to go ahead and click it one time into lock mode. So now that should say L. So in lock mode, you have full control with your joystick, left and right and up and down. So if you need to have full control with your remote or whatever you're using with this, this is a great way to actually get full function from the remote. This is nice if you have a second operator that's actually using the gimbal and trying to get a special move, and then you can be using the remote to be operating the pan and the tilt and pulling focus at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and get into the focus system really quick, and we'll mount that up. When we do that, it's going to change all of the balance of the whole thing. So as I mount this, you're going to notice that we're going to be way front heavy, and it's going to put a lot of weight on this side of the gimbal, so it's going to want to fall this way. So we'll go ahead and turn the power off. We're going to mount that up, and then we're going to rebalance this. When you get this, you get your servo drive motor. You get the extension, which mounts onto the plate of the gimbal itself. And then inside this little zipper pouch inside of here, you get a couple of these gear whips and your control cable. So these are the things that you're going to need to get started. It also has an Allen key inside of here that we will need to tighten this part up. So you'll see that this is offset. So you'll have a little bit more space on this side than this side on the mounting bracket. So you'll see also that you'll have a little bit more room on the bottom or on the top of this plate than you do on the bottom. So just make sure that you put this on so that the larger space will go on the top. The way that you do this is you take the Allen key and you put it in here. You loosen this nut up, and then you'll just go ahead and leave the Allen key in here, and you'll put that right through the hole, and then you can stick that nut on the back side, so you can do this with just one person, no problem. And you'll tighten that up just like that, and now you'll see that we have this mounted up till you can see it. So that's, you got the little nut on the back side, right? Let's see. You can see that little nut goes right on the back side right there, and then that piece extends right there. Now we're going to take this piece and we're going to screw it right into this part right here. Now you want this to be really snug because your whole gear is going to be mounted on this. So you have a couple of holes in this, and we're going to go ahead and just stick the Allen key in there, and we're going to snug this thing down nice and tight, just like that. So now that thing's not going anywhere, it feels nice and tight. Let's go ahead and mount our whip. So we're gonna go ahead and put this around the focus ring. And we wanna pull this thing fairly snug, but we don't want to stretch the whip out too bad, otherwise the gears aren't gonna work. So make sure it's nice and even around the whole thing, and then just pinch this together. So basically you're taking that whip and you're pushing this into that part that has the gears on the front. So we'll go ahead and make sure that that is semi-even all the way around, and that we're not hitting anything on the bottom. Right now I'm actually hitting this little mounting plate. So I'm going to push this whole ring forward just a little bit so we have nice freedom to turn all the way around. It's not hitting any place. I'm gonna go ahead and mount the gear now. So we'll loosen that up. You'll see that this piece slides up and down as well. So if you let go of it, it'll fall out. But you don't have to loosen this all the way. Just loosen it enough so that you can get it around the little tube here. So we wanna go ahead and just put this on just like that. You wanna put just a tiny bit of pressure right here as you're snugging this up. So we're going to go ahead and push this in, and I want push these two gears together so they're meshing nicely, and then I want to tighten it up. So now I have changed my balance though. Now we're super heavy on the front. If I'm letting go of it, you can see it's just going to fall forward, and I'm also really heavy on this side of the gimbal. So what I want to do is rebalance it really quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen this up, and I'm going to push this gear back. Now this changed the weight on this too, because my gear is not lining up anymore because I moved it back, but I'm still just a tiny bit front heavy. So I left it like that on purpose so that when I move this whole gearbox back, that's going to compensate, and we're going to be pretty close once we get it back there. So we'll loosen that up, kind of slide that back, put a little pressure on that, and then we'll tighten that back up. So forward and backward wise, I'm getting really close here. Now I moved this back just a little bit too far, thinking I might have to do this. So I'm gonna move this plate back just a little bit more. Whoops. You can see I can let go of it now and it's gonna balance. So we're really good there, but we're still super heavy on this side. So I'm gonna loosen this mount up back here, and we're gonna just move this over a tiny bit that way until it looks like it's centered. Pretty good there. But you can see my center of gravity has changed too. So because we have more weight on the bottom, now it's wanting to swing just a tiny bit. So we're gonna move this one up just a little bit. So I'll loosen that up and move it up just a tiny little bit. Oh, see, it didn't take much at all. And this is perfect. So that's how easy it is to get it balanced again. We want to make sure that our gear is lined up with our whip all the way around the whole entire lens. And that looks really good. So now we can go ahead and turn the power on again by pushing and holding the button until the light goes solid. You'll see the motors will fire up. The last thing that we need to do is hook up our cable. So we're going to take the cable, we're going to plug it in on this end. We're going to take the cable, and on the back side of this motor here, there's a plug back here. So we're going to plug this into the back side of the motor here. So you can see now as I'm moving my focus pole that we are not moving here. So we have another issue to deal with. We're going to push down to get into the menu, and then I'm going to scroll down until it says about, and then I'm going to push the right arrow, and it's going to tell me which firmware I have. Right now it's got the 1.6 something in there, and I need the 1.7. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to update the firmware and how easy it is, and then we'll get right into the follow focus and get into the remote. All right, so we're going to go ahead and go to the EVO Gimbals website at evogimbals.com. I'm going to go to support, and I'm going to go to software and manuals. So in here we will go ahead and go down to the RAGE3, and we will say that we want to get the firmware, which is the 1.72, and then there's also a driver that you're going to need to download as well. So once you get those installed, we can just go EVO Gimbals tool, and I can start this up right here, and this is going to open up this little tool that we've got here, and inside your little EVO case that you get with inside this case, you're going to have a bunch of cables. You've got one in here that's sort of a flat profile. Anything will work as long as you have the USB like this on one side and just a regular USB on the other. This is just the one that we provide for you. So we'll plug that in, and then right here on the side of the handle you have two ports. You just take the rubber part out of that port, and we're going to plug that right in. So we want the power can be on the gimbal as well. What we want to do is say open, and now we're going to connect to the gimbal by doing that. I'm going to go ahead and go to update over here. You'll see that these values are going to start moving and changing, and that's just from these things kind of moving, so you can actually monitor what's happening with your gimbal there. I want to go to firmware update. I'm going to go to browse, and I know that in my downloads I have this EVO right here. So we're gonna go ahead and open that, pick this firmware, say open, and then I'm gonna go down here to update. So it's that easy. Now it's gonna update here, and then you'll see a little arrow that will kind of give you an indication that we are updating on the gimbal, just like that. And then once that arrow is finished, then we know that we have the updated firmware. And this will take about a minute. And then when it's done updating, you'll see that it's just gonna take a second. It's gonna power the motors off. So it powered itself completely off. I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect this, because we do not need, we are updated at this point. And just to double check that we did actually get the update installed, I'm gonna power this back on till that light turns on. You'll see that the motors have turned on. Now I'm gonna go push menu again. I'm gonna scroll the wheel down into about, and I'm gonna hit the right side of the wheel. Now it says I have the 1.72 on there. All right, so now you can see that we have our follow focus moving. It's going correctly the way that it's supposed to. Now what I want to show you is this remote, and this thing is a game changer. I know that you probably hear that a lot, but I'm going to go ahead and power this on by pressing and holding the mode button, and you'll see that it's going to act just like the handle did. So now I've got this reflecting exactly what I have going on here. If I want my focus to work with this remote, I go into this menu on the handle, I go to menu, I go down to wheel, and I go priority, and I want it to be the external. So I'll switch it to external. I'll say okay, select. I'm gonna go ahead and power this on. So that will mirror exactly what we have here once it's on. I can operate my tilt just by moving this up and down, and I can go through my menu. So as I change the menu here, it's gonna go there. So in my lock mode, I have full control of my remote. And now I'm gonna go ahead and go into the follow focus. And as you can see, the focus is moving as I used it because I changed in the menu in there to the external. Now this is acting as the external. The nice thing about setting it up like this is as soon as I power this off, right now you can see this isn't doing anything. So it's giving all the power to the person that is operating this, so that if somebody's running and gunning with this and they accidentally move it, they're not going to change the focus. But when you turn this off and I power this down, now you'll see that it'll automatically, it takes a second, but it'll switch over. So now I have full control here. So as soon as this is not active, you have control of your focus here. So this is a really great tool. To buy a follow focus setup, I've looked at a few of them. They're about $1,100. So for the price of our gimbal and this remote, you get a gimbal with full pan follow. You get all the options in the menu to do time lapse, and you can kind of endless what you can do with these. So let me give you the quick rundown of the differences between this and the DJI Ronin S. Big selling points on ours is our batteries are interchangeable. It's a very common size battery. It's an 18650. They're super easy to find. You get 18 hours on one charge. You take them out, replace them. They cost $36 for a set of 3 for our batteries that we sell. You can find them on Amazon. You just want to make sure that they're the MP, which is a higher output. So that is a huge selling point. The other big selling point is that this comes with the follow focus. It comes with a case, comes with a tripod, and one of the huge ones is that it's 1.4 pounds lighter than the Ronin S. So when you pick this thing up and you've got a big camera on here and you imagine just another 1.5 pounds, 1.4 pounds of weight on this gimbal without a bigger camera, it adds up to quite a bit. We do have this handle set as well, and we also have our remote available, and this is available to buy right now. We are ready to go with ours the way it is now, so you can get this completely decked out with our handles, put a monitor on here, shotgun microphones, whatever you want to put on here, and be ready to go with a full pro unit and be running and gunning in no time. You have strength settings in the motors. So inside your menu, right on your handle or on here, you can go in and set your motor strength to high, medium, or low. So if you have a really light camera on here, RX100 or something that isn't going to require the gimbal to work very hard, you can go in and set the motors to low. You're going to maximize your battery, and also you're not straining the motors to work harder than they have to. If you're using a huge Nikon camera or a Red or something like that with a lens on it that's going to max out that 7-pound weight limit, you're going to want to go in and definitely set those motor strengths to high. With this camera, it could be on low or medium, wherever it's performing the best, and that's kind of up to the user. The last thing I want to address is that a lot of people are talking about the 45-degree angle of the motor on the Ronin. And I think that that's a really great feature for a lot of shooters. But when I shoot, I usually pick up my gimbal and I hold it like this. So when I'm looking at my camera, I have a really good view right here of my screen. So this is our RAGE3. I think that it is a really great gimbal for guys that are doing weddings, music videos, the higher end guys that are out there actually trying to produce really good commercial content. We have lots and lots of features with this gimbal when it comes to the remote, our handles, and everything that is available with this. It's really kind of a no-brainer. And for the price point, you just can't beat it. So I really appreciate you guys watching. We're gonna go ahead and do the RAGE Gen 2, and I'm gonna run through that as quickly as possible, but I do wanna show you the differences between that and this. So here we go. In the RAGE Gen 2, you get your gimbal, you get your batteries, you get your extension tube, tripod, and then a couple mounting points for your lenses. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this out. Underneath this little pocket right here are your batteries and your charger. For this, I'm gonna go ahead and just use one of these gold screws. I got my tripod. It does come with this really nice carrying case. So the same as the other gimbal, I'm gonna go ahead and put my batteries in. I'm gonna screw in my battery extension tube. I'm gonna go ahead and put my tripod on. Just like that. And we want to make sure that we can read the logo just like we were talking about on the other one, so that this is right side up. So if I was looking at this like I was using it with my interface facing me back here, my camera's going to go here, the motor's on my right hand side, your left hand side. So if you're looking at the front of the camera, it'd be the opposite. So let's go ahead and grab a camera. This one's a little bit different. It doesn't have a plate that comes off. It just has this plate that slides forward and backwards. So we're gonna go ahead and just screw the camera on here. And what I like to do is push the camera as close to this motor as I can without actually touching it. I wanna leave a little bit of room because I am gonna be moving it forward and backward to get my balance right. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten that down with this little thumb screw. I really like this because it is a really fast and easy setup. So we'll do the same thing we did before. I'm gonna hold the motor back here, or the rest of the gimbal back here, and I'm only gonna worry about my tilt here. You can see that it wants to fall back really bad. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna loosen up this thumb screw that we have, and I'm just gonna push this plate forward. Let's try to get it so that the camera wants to balance right there. Really close. And again, when you get into this, it's just these little tiny micro moves that are really gonna make the difference. And so we're just gonna move it tiny little bit back. I'm gonna tighten that up. It seems to be kind of staying there pretty close to where I want it on its own. I'm gonna have to come back to that one in a minute, but right now it's really heavy on this side. And I'm gonna go ahead and loosen this up and just slide this over until it stops falling. And I want it, it's obviously a little bit too far there, a little too far the other way now. So we'll get that happy medium right in there. And again, we're swinging. So as I go this way, it's kind of swinging up. As I go this way, it's kind of swinging back this way. So that is because our center of gravity here on this motor, which is that really important one that we need to get to, is just a little bit too low. So we're gonna bring that up. That's really good. That's swinging back a little bit this way. I'm gonna be able to live with that if everything else is okay. So that's really good. So this is holding, but it's kind of coming back. We could lift it up just a tiny bit more if we wanted to be really perfect about this. A little too much. You can see it was kind of falling there. That's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. So I'm really happy with that. So let's do the flashlight. So let's hold it just like this. We're going to turn that motor and let go of it. And you can see it's falling down. So that means that instead of it being too far forward like it was before, I'm too far back. So I'm just going to push this forward a little bit. Let go of it there. That's really good. I like that. I like that. So we are really well balanced right here. I like this. As we move some of these, as we move like different pieces, sometimes something else will go off. So you want to just kind of double check it and make sure everything is still on. So right now I'm a little bit far forward. Okay, that's really good. All right, so that's where we want it. And it doesn't take that much time. This is really not as hard or scary as people make it out to be. When these things first came out, they were really hard to balance because you had to do everything with tools and you had Allen keys and all kinds of stuff all over them. Now it's these simple thumb screws. They're so easy to do, and it really doesn't take a lot of time. It's just a matter of kind of practicing, and again, do it 3 or 4 times and you're gonna have it down, no problem. So now this one, we're ready to go ahead and fire it up. So I'm gonna go ahead and push and hold my power button, which looks like a camera button, until that light goes solid yellow. When it turns solid yellow, I can let go of the power button, and now you can see that we are in our pan follow mode. So it's gonna pan with my moves, and it's gonna keep my camera nice and straight and level no matter what I'm doing. So in our mode button here, if I push this twice, we're gonna go into our full follow. So just like the other gimbal in full follow, I have control with my joystick of the 45 degrees. So I could be doing a really artsy move where I'm moving in and I'm kind of having that 45-degree move turn. So it's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and straighten that up before we get out of that mode so you get it right back where you want it. Hit the mode button once. Now we're back into our pan follow mode. If I push it one time from here, it's going to go into lock mode. And in lock mode, I have full control with my joystick to move it left and right and up and down. So this is true across the board with all of our gimbals. So whether you're using our cell phone gimbal or you're using the RAGE3 or the RAGE Gen 2, the modes are all going to be the same. The only difference is with this one is now we have after the lock mode, if you push the mode button one more time, we have this 45 as well. So this is the big difference between our old firmware and the new firmware on this one, is you get that 45 degree. So if we click it one more time, you want to straighten it out and get it flat again. Then you click it once, we're going to go back into our pan follow mode. So there's really only 3 modes that you need to really worry about. So pan follow, which is the default. You have your lock mode, which you're going to have full control with your joystick, and then you have your full follow mode, which is going to give you full follow. So full follow this way and this way. So now you're working all the motors, and it's going to follow basically with your hand, whatever your gesture is doing. Our handles will work with this as well. So they just mount on here. So these are very universal. These will work with any gimbal. So this does not have to be an EVO gimbal. As long as it has a handle that will fit inside of that, it will work. So this is just a tensioner. These things are really nice too because they fold up. So you can actually put them in your bag. You can take the handles off, break these down really easily. So however you wanted to pack this up, it comes in this really small case, super low profile like that. And that is the handle box right there. And so these things are really nice, portable, packable. And then we also have our extension poles. We have carbon fiber extension poles. These things come in a set of 2. So they're pretty small and they are very, very, very light. They are super light. It's really hard to describe unless you can hold on to them. But with this kind of setup, or even the RAGE3, if you didn't have a huger camera on there, if you do have a really big camera, I wouldn't recommend using 2 of these. 1 of these might be okay, but this is a pretty light setup with my A7 III. So basically you get yourself an extension. So you're able to get out in front of you, you're able to get some really nice like jib shots where you're moving the camera up. When you're walking with this too, it kind of acts like a shock absorber. So if you can get that weight out in front of you as your body's moving up and down, you'll see that the camera will stay pretty flat and straight. So if you're running or doing anything, skiing, it really does help to have these extension poles. Plus you can get just really nice jib moves with it. So okay, sorry for jumping around a little bit, but I did forget to show you one of the best modes on the, you have this thing called G mode, and there's a button on the remote right down here. Let's put it in lock mode, and then as I press and hold that G mode button down, you'll see that as I'm moving it, I can move the camera with my gesture. So you have to think about wherever you start pressing the mode button is sort of the center point. So if I want to go up, I can go up. If I want to go down, I can go down. And then if I return to that center point, it will stop. Or if I go to the right and I let go of it, it will go ahead and smooth out that shot and stop it. So if I wanted to just move it a little bit to the left and then have it stop really slow, you can be very precise with the move on this. It's really, really nice. So we have the follow focus, we got the G mode, we're able to use the joystick to move the camera however we want to, all remotely, all in real time with no lag. So this is really, really a great tool. So the RAGE3, and then we have our RAGE Gen 2, whoops, and all of our accessories that work with both of these across the board. You really can't go wrong. I would say that if I was selling these to somebody, I would say that the RAGE Gen 2 customer is going to be more that run and gun wedding guy. But the RAGE3 on that higher end, if they're really wanting to pull focus and really get some artsy shots, this is definitely, the RAGE3 is a good way to go. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch and learn about these gimbals so that you can sell them a little bit better as a team. And thank you very much. If you guys have any questions, you can always reach out to us. We'd love to answer questions. We have customer support 9 to 5. We are on the West Coast, so you have to account for that 3 hours, but you can always get a hold of us 9 to 5 over here, or send us an email. We'll be happy to answer your questions. We have a lot more videos coming your way. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate all your help. Don't forget to keep it smooth. Thanks for watching. See you guys in the next video.